Really don't start when you start thinking on the big things. It happens when you start understanding the small things. Fin fans up north, Fin fans in the south, to the east, and to the west. What's better than this? More of this. Let's talk about it. So what we're going to do is talk about the top 3 defenses going into 2022 season for the AFC. So starting out, like, out of there's 6 teams out of the top 10 that belong to the AFC, and those teams were Buffalo, the Chiefs, Bengals, Broncos, Browns, and Chargers, with Miami coming in at 13. Now, Buffalo, against, like, as a team, the defense, against the pass, you know, they were like 530 attempts against Buffalo, and 297 of those were complete for 56%. And the yards after the catch usually ran about like 5.5 to 5.7, and they were like 12 TDs scored on Buffalo through the air, and Buffalo as a team had 19 interceptions. Now, we had the Chiefs up next, and the Chiefs had 610 attempts on them, and out of the 610, 401 were complete, and that came out to about 65.7% of a completion rate against them through the air. Yards after the catch, most of the receivers got 7.3 yards after the catch, and 27 TDs were scored against the Chiefs, and the Chiefs came out with 15 INTs. The Bengals came in at 626 attempts with 420 completed out of those 626, and they had 67% completion rate against them through the air, and usually it came out to about 7 yards after the catch against them. And they had 26 TDs scored against them and 13 INTs. The Broncos, 562 attempts and 341 complete, and that was a 60.7% completion rate against them, and they were able to hold some of the receivers down to 6.9 yards after the catch, and they had 22 TDs scored against them and 13 INTs. And the Browns, they come in at 576, and the completions was like 367 for 63.7%, and about probably 6.5 yards after the catch. They had 29 TDs scored against them and 13 INTs. The Chargers had 559 attempts, and 357 of those were complete for 63.9%. And the yards after the catch was like 7 yards after the catch, and they had 27 TDs scored against them with 11 INTs. Miami, you know, coming in at 13, you know, had 608 attempts, and 373 of those were complete for 61.3%. And the receivers were running about like 7 yards after the catch, and they had 23 TDs thrown against them through the air, and they had 14 INTs. Now, Miami's defense was still a little bit better than the defending champions, the Los Angeles Rams, through the air. So that says a lot. And, you know, 62 of those passes against, you know, the defenses, our defense, was over 20 yards. And it was just a little bit lower than Cincinnati's, who is the AFC defending champion. So we're right up there in terms of competition, and 3,871 yards that were passed against us for the entire season. Now, that 3,871 yards is still lower than what the Chiefs and the Bengals were getting passed on. The yards for the Chiefs were 4,273 yards, and the yards for the Bengals were 4,222 yards. So our pass defense was a little bit better than theirs, and these guys were in the top 6 out of the top 10 in the NFL on defense. So that's going to say a lot about our passing, about the passing game, is the fact that we have some great corners out there with Xavier Howard and Byron out there, and Javon Holland has come on his own. So we're going to be looking to add on that. And we also have Trill Williams, who is another corner out there who's going to be looking to step up. And we do got Nick Needham. Nick Needham is coming in to his own, and we're looking for him to step up. And if we can get Noah Igbenegbu to show up and show out too, I expect that the yards the yards passed against us will be a lot lower. Like Buffalo came in at 2,771 yards, and I think that our secondary can be a lot better than Buffalo's, and I think that with where we're headed and where we're going, we're all headed in the right direction. Now, now when we're talking about like the run, stopping the run and everything, out of the top 10, there was like 4 teams from the AFC that made it. And you're talking about the Ravens, Titans, Bengals again, and the Colts. And, Miami was coming in, I think about 14th against the run. And although it really didn't, in some of the games it just didn't look like it. It looked like we were probably dead last, but we were actually tougher against the run than, we were against the pass. We competed when we went to our man coverage, and like some of the stats, like against the run, like the Ravens had 378 attempts against them for the run, and only 1,436 yards were gained from that for a yards after. It was a 3.8. They had 13 TDs. They had 13 TDs scored against them on the ground, and like 7 of those TDs were over 20+ yards. The Titans came in at 368 attempts with 1,438 yards, and 3.9 was the yards after, and 14 TDs were scored against them, with 3 of those only being over 20+ yard runs. The Bengals make the chart again on this chart, and they come in at 407 attempts, 1,742 yards. 4.3 yards were the average yards after the average running yards against them, and they had 15 TDs scored against them, and they had 8 of those 15 runs there for 20+ yards. The Colts come in at 420 attempts and with 1,854 yards, and they was a little bit about like 4.5 yards that they were allowing, with 10 TDs scored against them, and 10 of those TDs were over 20+ yards. Miami, we were 14th against the run, all right, and we were 7th in the AFC, and we had 425 attempts, and we had 1,867 yards against us, and like the Colts, we were giving up probably about 4.5 yards after, yards per run, and there were 16 TDs scored against us, and 13 of them, 16, were over 20+ yard runs. Some of the fumbles that we were able to recover, we had 6 fumble recoveries as a whole, and we were tied with the Bengals for that amount, and the Ravens and the Titans had, you know, a few less, and the Colts coming in at more at 10 fumble recoveries. And when we were talking about, like, when it comes to like how our defensive line has stepped up and has really answered the call as a whole, Christian Wilkins, Zach Zeeler, Raekwon Davis, and Emmanuel Ogbah, Jalen Phillips. And when you're looking at the defensive line is definitely is answering the bell. Then we got Melvin Ingram that's gonna be coming into the fray there, and that's only gonna make everything even better. One of the best things with Miami is that when we were playing that man coverage, we really knew how to get after, you know, the quarterbacks and stop the quarterback and stop plays, shut them down in the backfield, and really take hold of things. Miami had the most sacks out of those those top teams in the AFC. Miami came in at 48 sacks. Buffalo come in at 42. The Chiefs at 31. The Bengals at 42 sacks. The Broncos 36. The Browns had 43, and the Chargers had 35. And again, Miami, you know, topped off the AFC coming in at 48 sacks. So, with all this said, you know, Miami in itself is a defense to be reckoned with. And looking at what's going to be happening with the top 3 defenses in the AFC for 2022, I would definitely have to say Miami will be one of them. I think the Bengals will be there, and I also believe Buffalo will be there. So my pick for the, you know, top 3 defenses in 2022 in the AFC is going to go to Miami. It's going to go to the Bengals, and I think, honestly, it'll probably be Buffalo too. So those are my 3. All right. So look, if you have any questions, you know, please feel free to ask. You know, leave a comment or send me an email. In the meantime, I really let you guys know I really appreciate you guys. You guys can like, subscribe, hit the bell, and yeah, just keep supporting the channel, and we'll keep growing. And thank you. Love y'all. Deuces. Fin fans up north, Fin fans in the south, to the east, and to the west. What's better than this? More of this. Let's talk about it. Fin fans up north, Fin fans in the south, to the east, and to the west. What's better than this? More of this. Let's talk about it. Don't forget to take a look at our gear. Clicking with the FinFan. You can check out the links below. And also know that your support with this helps our artists, and it also helps what we're doing here with Clicking with the FinFan. And a good thing about it all is you also get free shipping with that. So just take a look at the gear that we got. Grab something for you, your boo, significant other, your kids, whatever.